Today's video is especially for you newbies, but for you old-timers, I'm hoping you'll chime in and give some advice to people who are just starting out with van travel. In the last few weeks, I've gotten quite a few emails and comments and questions about how to provision your vehicle because you're either getting a new one, you've just gotten one, or you are off on your first adventure. I have some words of caution, but I've also had a lot of people who are new to the channel and they're watching a lot of my older videos. And I want to bring everybody kind of up to date on what we're using now, as opposed to kind of the journey that we've been on over these last 4 years of owning this 2018 Pleasureway Ascent. I also just realized just this morning that it's been 3 years since I started uploading videos to YouTube. And we have learned a lot along the way. The good part is that we've documented it, and the bad part is that we've documented it. John and I are currently camping, and this is not necessarily what we would take on a really long trip. And depending on where we're going and what time of year it is, that will determine what kind of equipment we take, our clothing, our cook gear, all of that sort of stuff. And if you're trying to kind of kit out your rig from the get-go and you really haven't done a lot of traveling, you don't know what you need or want. And your style of travel is likely to be different from ours. So I really caution you not to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. Get the barest minimum things that you need and then travel. Take short trips. Don't go too far. Don't go on this, 3-month adventure is my advice. What we thought we needed in the beginning is very different than what we are using now. Partly because you realize you really didn't need the stuff that you thought you needed. And if you want to get off on the wrong foot on a trip, and especially if you're traveling with a partner, is to take a lot of stuff. Because there is nothing more irritating than, your stuff occupying the very compact space that we have here. This is just a 20-foot or 19.5-foot van, so there's not a lot of space in here, although I think it's pretty well designed. On this trip, just yesterday, John and I were talking about how we suddenly have more space than we used to have. And it's really because we've started to offload a bunch of stuff. And we take the barest minimum and we figured out the smallest thing that will work to solve whatever it is that we're trying to solve. For example, day packs can take up a lot of space. And just a few days ago, we were at the East Side Sports in Bishop. It's one of my favorite outdoor stores. They sell backpacking, mostly hiking backpacking stuff. And they had this Osprey bag. And it caught my eye because they call it a stuff sack. But it is super, super thin material. It doesn't have a hip belt or anything, just has the shoulder. But for so much of our light hiking, this would be perfect. I like it especially because it solves, kind of a problem with jackets. It's a stuff sack as well. So I've got John's jacket in here, and I've got my jacket in here. And of course our jackets, we don't travel with anything like fleece because it takes up too much space. We just travel with lightweight kind of down type jackets. And I always pick them with hoods. So you'll notice that everything I have has a hood on it. And if it doesn't have a hood, sometimes I sew a hood on. So this is great, great stuff sack, but then you might be hiking to a supermarket. Here you've got your bag to throw some food into. So I really like that. But that's one of the things you just do along the way. You don't need to start out with everything perfect. It kind of makes it fun when you're out on the road and you go, oh, this might solve that problem. And then of course we're in the shoulder season. It's April and it can be windy and cold. So we'll have a heavier jacket, whereas in the summertime we won't. And so this is space something else will be occupying. But this is one of those cupboards that I noticed had a lot of space in it. This is we've got 2 small pillows. We both have 2 like full-size pillows and 2 small pillows. And this is our duvet sleeping thing. that, like that, like that. That's it. You can see down here, I permanently sewn in this bottom sheet here, this half sheet, so that our feet go in there. I call it the pocket. So I'm always saying to John, are your feet in the pocket? There it is. And I have a couple of plastic bins for food items that mice could get into if they got into the van. I also have back here the Omnia oven. And the Omnia oven is one of the things that always travels with us because it has come in so useful for so many things. I love that. The Instant Pot is behind it, and that will sometimes come with us depending on what I want to cook on that trip. Look at all this extra space we have now that used to be just crammed with stuff. So I like that because I can always shove my purse up there, or like these jackets. As you newbies learn to pack better, you will start realizing that you have a little more space than you thought you had. Because we started out with thinking we needed a box behind the van. This was before we carried bikes. And we realized we didn't. We could find extra space inside the van. So now let me show you where I store my clothing and how that has changed and evolved over the last 4 years. I used to always carry extra food up here. Food is really tough. I think most people take too much. And so I'm trying to get away from carrying food up there. I have a lot of electronics that I have to store, so I need extra space for some of my electronics. But I discovered these bags at Target several months ago. I originally got 3, and then I liked them, so I got 3 for John, and I liked them so much I went back and I got 3 more. Or did I get 2 more? I got 2 more. So I know that, I've talked about carrying those compression bags, and I still use some of those compression bags. So I have I think 3 in here. I like them for socks and underwear. So let me I'll take down one of these things. In this one, I have all my pants and shorts, and I roll them up like this, so I can actually see what I have. I also have all my tops in here. In this one, I've got some of my electronic stuff in this. I like these because they're the right depth for our cabinets. And so it just depends on what kind of van you have and the size. But these do come in different depths, a couple different depths. So you could check those out if you want at Target. And then over here, I have more tops. I don't know, it's just worked really well to be able to just pull these things out and see what I have. So those are my clothes. And what has surprised me, I probably should mention, I've mentioned this in older videos, but a lot of you, haven't seen those. The fabric that we choose is always super thin, because a thin material obviously is going to take up less space, so you can take more of them. So if you're having trouble finding, fitting everything in, experiment with finding thinner fabric. This is one of the Patagonia Capeline shirts, and it's really thin, and it serves all kinds of great purposes, keeps the sun off, all that. So, you can experiment with fabrics to make sure you have enough space. John has a little bit less, but then he's not carrying electronics like I am. I meant he has less storage. So those are John's. You can see he's got the compression bags down here. His toiletries are in here. And then our kind of odds and ends, batteries, keys, weird things are up there, cords. DVD player that we don't use, I'd love to get rid of it. And then pots and pans, just the barest minimum. You want to make sure everything nests. And I have a mixing bowl for things like, batter. I have a pot that will heat up soups and things like that. That is the perfect size for 2 people. And inside of it nests 3 bowls. I have 3 bowls and 2 small plates. And they all nest inside there nicely. So just experiment. 1 larger bowl for things like salads. I have a Teflon fry pan. I also usually carry a cast iron pan. And then I have 2 plates, and that's it. I do not carry any paper plates or cups. So you can see I have space here, so I could put some food, maybe something that wouldn't get dented if it rattled around a little bit. Do be careful though when you open these cupboards, things will shift, so you want to open the cupboard very slowly, and also make sure that you latch it before you take off. I have forgotten and left nice dents on the floor. Down below is still where we store the food and my tea kettle, my measuring things, my plastic bags for the trash. So that's where everything goes. I guess I should mention that I did add this little shelf so that it gave me more storage. Storage containers, these come in handy because they don't take up much space, but you can actually cook in them. You open up like this, and they can store leftovers. You can seal them up. You can put them in the microwave, in the refrigerator. You can take them on a hike and store snacks in them. So, you know, just always looking for things that are multi-purpose. Now we have 3 drawers: silverware, spices, towels. I usually carry just 2 dish towels, and I have a lot of electronics down here. For us, one of the big game changers was the cab shelf, which is where we store our 2 regular size pillows in this netting. And I store the windshield cover for our van, which is on there now, and 2 of the warm window curtains. One of them goes on the sliding door here, and the other one goes on the back door. We do use that to keep the heat out, the one on the back door, as well as the cold, so that one will get used most times, and also to keep if it's too light out, if it's a full moon or something, I can't stand it when it's too bright. So that's where we keep those, as well as our towels. So we have 2 towels back here, and the curtain that goes between the cab and the back of the van, so that's also stored up here. So that was a game changer, but again, we noticed on this trip, we still have extra space up here. So we're glad about that, because that's one of the things you'll argue about with your traveling partner. And we carry drinking water back behind the driver's seat, usually 3 gallons, but I just recently purchased this container from Costco. So I filled this with ice before we left, and it was cold for the ice was in there, you know, after the 3rd day it was still in there. So that has worked out well, and we'll continue to carry that. I wanted to update you on this shelf that goes in the front that we purchased, and I love it. It does restrict John getting in and out a little bit, but he can deal with it. And then I finally found some mugs that actually fit into these cup holders, because it was a little snug for some of them. So I found these also at Target, and they are made by, well, it's called Reduce. We carry just 2 mugs each. So I have one for cold and one for hot. So this is for cold, and then I carry this for hot. And that really works well. You just don't need more than that. The other thing that was really a game changer for us was the trasharoo. But if you don't have a spare tire to hang it from, then that's an issue. But we keep a lot of odds and ends in there, odd shaped things, all lightweight. Can't carry more than how many pounds? 100 pounds on the whole thing. That includes the tire. Somebody asked where we put the Blackstone. So this is where the Blackstone griddle goes. And I really haven't decided, it just barely fits. The way the doors are shaped, the door misses the knob here. Of course, we've removed that panel from our battery, so that also helps. I continue to get lots of questions about the Moonshade. Why do we use the Moonshade and not the awning? And this is where we store the Moonshade. There's a little step, the step that comes down from the van. There's a little space here, and it fits in perfectly. It just scoots right in, so that's a perfect spot for us. I still store my shoes here, and we put maps in these bags, and that still works out well. I know I've answered this question before, but I'll do it again because it was, I don't know how long ago in a video. The reason we use the Moonshade instead of the awning is because the awning retracts very easily with a breeze, and I know it can be adjusted, but I really don't want to take the risk of that thing getting picked up in a gust of wind and destroyed, because that would be really expensive to repair. So if the door is all the way open, we'll have to stick the other magnet on the door. If I want to close the door, he has to grab that, and he's tall, so he can do it. And then go like that. And he has to put it back. But you can still have the door open partway. There. So if you do it like that and have the doors open just partway, then it works without having to move the magnet. This gives you an idea of the additional privacy you get from the Moonshade. And it also allows you to put some kind of like a shower curtain on the side of it with the sun when the sun is coming in. So those awnings sit really high. So the sun, if the sun is in a position, off to the side, it's not going to really shield you from the sun if you want to sit out and sit in a chair outside. Whereas with the Moonshade, you can actually take a very lightweight shower curtain, like the one I use on the outside shower, and you can clip it to the Moonshade in those places and give yourself a little bit more shade. So we like that, but I don't recommend people go out and buy any of this stuff without actually experiencing more camping and deciding that you actually like it. There are lots of vans, I'm sure, that are going to go on sale a year from the date they were bought, because people realize that they just weren't, maybe they weren't campers, maybe they weren't van people, maybe they couldn't figure out the dance that you have to do in a van, so that because there's such a small amount of space. So I don't recommend people pour more money into something that they really, their heart is not really in. The bottom line is things are going to constantly change when it comes to our van life, because I'm always trying out new things or finding better solutions. So I hope that's helped some of the newbies, and I hope that everybody else knows where we are at this moment in time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. They are, oh my gosh, they're everywhere.